Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne Williams with Back to Earth Creations, and in this video I want to set this little acrylic cameo in chainmail and then frame it in wire wrapping. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So let's get started. Okay, so this is a 40 by 30 millimeter cameo of some different like poppies maybe, I don't know. I got it in some upcycled jewelry, like it had a back glued to it and I just popped it off and it was like, jewelry time. These are 20 gauge 1/8 inch aluminum rings, and then I'll be using a combination of 18 gauge and 26 gauge vintage bronze parawire. There'll be links for all of the tools and materials that I'm using here today down in the video description below. It's a pretty small ring, so I'm using some pretty petite pliers. And I'm going to start out by, I have like 50 rings of one open with one closed on each, with the exclusion of the first ring has two closed on it. And I'm going to move through this pretty quickly. If future Vaughn remembers to, there'll be a link popping up somewhere on the screen, or also down in the video description below, where I have a much more in-depth tutorial specifically on how to weave this pattern, which is called a half Persian 3-in-1. But I wanted to give you guys a pretty realistic idea of how mind-numbingly time-consuming this can be, but in a good way. Because honestly, I'd love to be able to get into metalsmithing. That way I could just do like maybe, I don't know, like a forged bezel. But I find that this is a really nice alternative to using pre-purchased bezels that helps me branch out away from only doing wire wrapped things. There we go. So now I'm going to try it just a little snugger. I like to bring it, yeah, that's much better. Kind of tight, but I'm not quite so worried about it just popping off. And I'm trying to position it on this cameo. You know, I might just have to wire wrap it because the edge of this cameo is so bluntly like not rounded. That I'm not able to position it, because usually whenever I set it in and glue it, I try to have a pretty liberal amount of chainmail kind of coming back off the edge, but if I do that, then it pops off. So let's see what we can't manage with wire wrapping it on. I've had a couple of friends request a fractal wrapped chainmail anyhow, so I'm going to cut off a full arm span of 26 gauge wire in the vintage bronze. Okay, so I'm getting it set up here on the edge of my cabochon. We're trying to. And I'm going to feed just some of the wire through here at the top. I'm going to fold it down. And now I'm going to come through with my wire, and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think on the 7th hole, I'm going to thread through from the front to the back. And I'm going to bring this up so that you guys can see what I'm doing. See how that works? And so now I'm going to pull around and I'm going to feed in through the next one. Trying my best to keep the wire from kinking. It's kind of difficult at first working with all the long wire, but I really hate having to add wire in on these. So I'd rather work with the tangled wire than try to deal. And I'm just going to thread through, you can see on the back, just down like that. And come up and through. And you can see this is, I mean, it's just flopping everywhere. I would not recommend this cameo to someone for their first project. So I'm going to come in and just start pulling some of these down. And right now I don't have too much rhyme and reason. I'm just trying to hook and pull wherever I can. And now that's much more inclined to stay in. But just for good measure, because that's what I like to do, I'm still going to glue this sucker in the back. Because I'll be darned if it pops out. I'm going to set that extra wire off to the side. I have my little round nose pliers. So I'm going to make just a tidy little spiral and tuck it in. Okay. So here I have a piece of scrap paper. And a few long toothpicks. And I always pull out two. I usually only use one, but it's nice to have a backup on hand if one of them breaks. And I'm gonna use quite a bit because I also have a couple of chainmail eyes sitting over here, like dragon eyes set in chainmail, that I need to do backings on. And anytime I mix up some epoxy, I try to just do a couple of projects. That way there's no risk of wasting any. Now also you'll see this one does not want to lay flat, so I like to take these spools and set it on there, and it holds it, you know, flat. Hey kitten, you can't get up here. I'm working with epoxy. You don't speak English, but I'm going to explain it to you anyways. Because I love you. Yeah. Okay. So now I've got a nice, generous glob on there. And I'm just going to put it here on the back. And I'm just smushing it all up. I'm going to get a little bit more on there. I mean, I'm pretty generous with this stuff. Because it's, you don't want your stone just falling out. But I found that with like E6000, if you glob it on real thick like that, it's like it never dries. So I really like the epoxy. And you can see these are much larger examples. I'm just going to set them off to the side. well, it's a smaller cabochon, but it's a larger chainmail, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, now you can see, though, it's super stringy. This is past being able to work with. It's not set yet, but it wouldn't penetrate and grip the way that it normally would. So just like that, that's all the time I had. So I'm going to fold this in half. What were we looking at here? Like, what did you want to show me? Someone who shared that. What's their name? Was it shared to the business page, or?
No, it's shared in response to this.
Oh, right on. One of my friends on Facebook just shared, like, commented a little smiley face waving with a colorful background, and it says, "Fake it till you make it."
Wrapping code.
Wire wrapping code. Fake it till you make it. Amen. I believe in those words. So yeah, so this is how it's looking, and you can feel it, like, it really heats up as the chemical reaction happens. Here I have a bit of 18 gauge vintage bronze that I have coiled with a 26 gauge, but it's not as much as I would like it to be. If I remember to, no promises, I have a tutorial on how to coil wire, but a little thing will pop up on the screen maybe. But the way that I add in a new wire is, you can see how these are more openly spaced. So going in the same direction as what I normally weave, I'm just going to let this new wire settle down in between those previous coils, making sure it sits nice. And then I'm going to tuck this one in between them as well. And the goal is to get them to settle very nicely in between each other. That way it looks seamless. And I'm going to go ahead and just snip this little tail off. And then you can use your bent nose pliers to train that tail down so nothing's snagging. Push it in nice and tight. I'm going to scooch it down just a hair. And I'm going to continue coiling with the remainder of the wire that I have from doing the fractal wrap around that blasted cabochon. Lots and lots and lots and lots of coils. Now this is this style that I'm going to be doing here shortly was what I did pretty frequently prior to getting into doing the wire weaving. Like, it was a step up from just basic wrapping, but it was still more intermediate maybe, but only because I just didn't know how to do wire weaving yet. But I'm going to try to keep this centered on the wire as much as I can. And I'm going to take a cue from the tutorial I did last night, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it here and meet y'all back here after I have had a good 8 to 9 hour nap and the sun is back. So I'll meet y'all right back here. Well, for you it'll be like, I mean, in a second, but I'll see you guys later. Hey everybody. So I've slept and eaten and had some coffee and gotten started with my day. Do what?
Ran a few errands.
Ran a few errands, yeah. So we're back where we started. Oh yeah, and the sun's up, which is very nice. I do like that big ball of hydrogen in the sky. Get rid of that glare. So here we have the length of 18 gauge wire that has been coiled with the 26 gauge. Also experimenting with a new camera setup, so we'll see how that goes. And this is our cabochon from last night. And you can see it is very well set in there. So pleased. And I really like the way that kind of border looks on it as well. And so now, first things first, what we're going to be doing, I wish I could find my mandrels, but I'm limited to using some knitting needles and a mechanical pencil. So I have the points of where the coiling stops lined up, so I found the center. And I'm just going to set this right against there like that. And then I'm going to cross around into a very nice little teardrop. And we can come down a little lower onto the tip of the mechanical pencil to give it a little bit smaller of a loop. I'm going to see if I can't zoom in just a hair. The future is now, people. So then from here, you have that nice little loop. Again, I'm going to apologize for my stained up fingernails. It's that ink that I keep and finding myself using is a pain. And so now, holding this pretty like snugly, I'm going to take the right side and thread it through the center to the back. And then I'm going to kind of pull and just encourage it down in a nice round manner. And I'm going to do that same thing on the other side. And even though on this one the wire's sitting on top, I'm still coming in from the front to the back, and that's to start making it be symmetrical. I'm just pulling down, kind of just tightening it down. So that one came out pretty tight, so I'm going to tighten the other side down now to match. There we go. Kind of smush it around with your fingers to get that to look like, you know, get the sides to be symmetrical. And now from here, I think I'm just going to cut a nice little loop. And the way that I do that is I'm bracing it with my finger, and I'm going to come in. I want the loop to happen right about there, so I can put my thumbnail in and push just a little. Maybe it would be better with that light. Just a little brighter. There we go. Just to make that bend start happening, and then I'm just twisting around, kind of pinning that wire between my fingers to keep it flat, just to make a little nice little loop like that. And so now to do that same thing on the other side, again, when it come out, try to make it nice and equidistant. Do that little bit of a bend, and I'm curling it to where the wire is on top. It's not behind. These are the details that we want to pay attention to as we're doing this, because it'll help us. They're the cues that we take to keep that symmetry happening. So there's that. Just forming around kind of nicely. And you can see here how this is going to start sitting dun, 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 against our little chainmail set bezel. You're trying so hard to eat quietly that it's making it like a loud whisper. Like, don't worry about it. Like, the camera can't hear you, but I can hear you trying, and it's so sweet. I love you so much, Randy. Sorry, he's over there. He's eating, what's that, watermelon?
Mm-hmm.
Trying. It's like, it's almost as loud as chewing potato chips. Like, just. Okay, focus. We can do this. So you can see how that's going to kind of sit along there. And I think I'm going to leave this at that to make just a nice little teardrop pattern. And so now from here, I'm going to pull out some more of the 26 gauge wire. Oh, about a yard's worth, because there's no sense in having to add in more wire later. come through here, and I'm going to go ahead and fold it in half. Now also, I'm going to pull out my tray of beads. And I actually think I have some, oops. Well, the only size that I have left are these little 2.5 millimeter. Because I did have, well, if you can see, I did have some like different sizes, but they're all gone now. They sad. But that's a nice little oxidized color. I'm gonna bring this back around. Sorry, still messing with my camera. And I have some shiny silver beads in different sizes. And here I have some. Are these the same size? Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to stick to using these 2.5 millimeter beads. Let me see if I can't set them somewhere that they're not going to just roll everywhere. So I'm going to take one of the beads and I'm going to thread it onto my wire and bring it down to the center. And then let me see if I can't zoom in a bit. With that bead pin, or there at the center, I'm going to come through actually right there and right there. Do you see how that's entering in? And then I'm going to pull it through, and that just nestles that bead right there. So super cute, like. With it being, and you can decide which side you want for the front, and ooh, that side's pretty too. But I think I like this one. I like the way the flow is happening. Makes me happy. So now, again, pulling down to get the two ends, I'm going to come up onto, find where the center line of your cameo is, or your cabochon, and I'm going to drop it. I'm going to push up from behind through the chainmail frame. You can kind of see where that happened. Oh, I'm very much preferring this camera angle, you guys. I just hope that it doesn't sound like I'm hollering in your ear. We'll deal with that in post. And then I'm going to just fold it and nestle it around to where it's sitting like this. You can do a little bit of tweaking and stuff, it'll be fine. And now from there, I'm going to come around and nestle it. Do you see how I just tucked that through that little area? And I'm going to feed up from behind. And you can be however meticulous or carefree as you would like. At this point, I try to maintain some semblance of symmetry, but it's like a lazy person symmetry. Like, I'm not too torn up about it if it's like, that one didn't come out perfect to the other side. And you can see I do have a little bit of wiggle here, so I can eyeball it, and really look at it. And before wrapping up all the way around the sides like we're going to be doing, to make sure, that it is exactly like how we want it. So I'm just coming in between there, and then I'm going to come up on this side. Just fitting all the wires through. Trying my best to make sure that it does not kink, because kinks are the wire killer. Okay. And so now if you're lucky, you can layer it and pull it down nice and tight to where it just blends in with the weaving. That's always my favorite. And then I'm going to come up just a few stitches, well, a few rings of chainmail, feed it through from the back. And kind of tighten it down. So there it popped out of where it was tucked in all snug like, which is okay. We can just push it with our fingernail and get it to go back in. So tucking that down. I'm going to come back up one more stitch, and then I'm going to start going on the other side to keep it symmetrical. I figure baby steps, you know, do a couple of steps on one side, then do the same couple on the other side, because if I completed this whole side, by the time I came back to here, I might not remember what I had done. And so I like doing the steps kind of side by side while it's fresh in my memory. Okay, so there's that happening. I'm going to come around the back side. And this is also a nice opportunity. If you wanted to, you could be adding little beads along the edge, or just, you know, however you like. Using my thumbnail to push that down. You can try to use your pliers if you want to, yep, get that to snuggle in. And pull that down, again, so it catches. I'm way more meticulous about making sure that they, that they stay symmetrical up the sides if I'm not able to tuck my weaving wire in with the coils, because it's a lot more obvious. But whenever I'm able to do this, I kind of get lazy about it and I don't bother counting. Feeding through. And pull that down nice and tight. So you can see how that's building off of the edge. That makes me really happy. I love that. Okay, so, and we're going to bring this all the way around up to the top, I do believe. Maybe I might make this one into a necklace. I don't know yet. So I'm going to do one more stitch, because this is quite fancy to have as just a pendant, but we might turn it into a really nice little necklace. Another one of them, they're art pieces. Okay, so this one, I think I am going to have it branch off to the side, so I'm going to go through immediately the next set of chainmail. Where'd you go? There you are. To keep this nice and reinforced, because that's where I want to have like some coils start building out. And you could do, you know, every stitch all the way around if you wanted. I personally haven't really found that to be necessary, but that's for you to decide. So let's try to keep an equal number of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So I'm going to have 9 little rings across the top there. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3. So that's where I'm going to feed through. Where my wire? There you are. See, it's loops like that that have a tendency to want to become kinks. And it doesn't want to lay in its spot, but we'll figure that out. Okay, so there's one. And there's a lot of wire to be feeding through here, but we've got it. There's two. Now this will be the third one, and this should bring us to symmetrical on the sides. If you can't get in there with your fingers, don't hesitate to use your pliers. They are extensions of our hands. At least a good pair of pliers behaves like an extension of your hands. That one doesn't want to lay put either. There we go. Okay, so now from here, I'm going to bring these two wrapping wires down to the front, and I want to mirror image what's happening here. So the wire is going to come around and down to the back. Just like that. So same thing on this side, around and down to the back. And it's a goal of mine to have these be nice and symmetrical. Just like that. Because I think I'm going to attach a necklace to this, and those give me a perfect little shoulders of the piece to attach a chain to. Everything else from here is just going to be decorative. So now I'm going to do another stitch to stabilize, just coming up to the next chainmail set. Trying to not catch any of my own wires from the fractal wrap. Eek. There we go. Oh man, this is like a million times easier after I've slept. Okay, same thing on the other side. Maybe. Will you go through there, please? Because that's something to keep in mind, is that sometimes the epoxy will kind of seep down and block up your chainmail. I mean, it's okay, it's a thing that happens. So I'm just going to come in through, I guess, the same hole. Oops. Okay. And so now I'm going to bring this around, but have it come to the front. Just like that. I'm going to bring it around. There we go. I'm going to wrap another stitch to stabilize. It's much easier when there's not epoxy in the way. Okay, and now from here, I'm going to bring this around and feed it through that loop. Just like that. So this one, I'm going to do the same thing, coming up from behind and just feeding it through. Trying to keep that proportion and curve the same. Yay for symmetry. And that came out just about perfect though, you guys. I'm really excited about that. So now what I'm actually going to do from here, let's go ahead and snip this wire about 5 millimeters past where the coiling stops. I'm going to go ahead and do a stabilizing stitch. Or two, actually. Up from behind. Now that I'm thinking about it, I probably could have given myself just a little bit more wire, because each of these that you add, I mean, it's a fraction of a millimeter, yeah, but it's going to push that wire farther down on the tip. I'm trying to not disrupt the flow of the fractal wrap patterning, so, you know, by having this wire like poke through and come out in the middle of it happening. Oh, come on, you can get through there maybe? Yep. Okay. So here we are now. We've got our little wires coming along there. I'm going to take this and just trim it down to where it's just a little bit more perfectly symmetrical. And I'm going to make a little spiral. And just start it like that, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Find my nylon jaw pliers. And just come down a little bit more, maybe a little tighter. There we go. Making a nice snug coil. And now from here, I'd really like, what would I really like? I'm going to hook on, if your wire's getting all crunchy and weird there at the tip, nylon jaw pliers to the rescue. I'm going to hook on one of these small beads. And I'm going to come through just right here and actually open that spiral up just a little bit. We can deepen it back down here in a minute. I'm just going to thread this through. See how that happened? I'm going to wrap around our spiral to rethread just a nice grounding wire. It keeps everything nice and tight, I think. And I'm going to do that on the same thing on the other side. Okay, so here we are now. And these two wires are now exiting the back. And I'm gonna rummage through my beads, and I'm trying to think what would look really cool, like right there. Maybe something silver to help tie everything in together. Though now that I'm looking at it too, if there were a way that I could, and you can press it down and flatten it some, if there were a way that I could incorporate more chainmail, especially this silver colored chainmail, like right there, I wonder how I would go about doing that. I don't know, this acrylic looks like bone, so let me see what bone beads I have. I'll be right back. That's a bunch of shell and pearl. Okay, so here I have my tray of bone beads. It's quite dusty. Oh, look at these little quartz points I didn't even remember I had. It's always nice to come back and visit old beads. It's like saying hey to old friends. It's like, hey you, I remember you. I guess it would help too if I had my pendant to look at. Do I want that, or do I want something darker? I mean, that's certainly an option. How would maybe a shinier bone bead look? I'm not ruling the bones out yet, but I don't know if for certain if that is exactly what I want to use. So I'm wondering if I have any like large metal beads that might look nice. Nah. Maybe, if I had a silver one, which I might somewhere. Yeah, I really think I'm gonna go the chainmail route. So let me see if I don't have some stainless steel, because I think that would match those little metal beads. Here we go. Here are some nice stainless steel rings. And these are 18 gauge 1/4 inch. And I'm just going to do a couple. I've got 4 rings here. 3 of them were very conveniently already open. Just getting a nice, good closure there. And this, what I'm making is a Mbius flower. Hooking the 2 rings together, cross them over each other so it makes a little Venn diagram. Putting it right through the middle. Closing it. So that's a 3-petal Mbius flower. Let's do a 4-petal, bulk it up a little bit. Get these little wires out of the way. I'm not going to bind them off until I know for certain what it... Yeah, I like that. Okay. So now, knowing that I want that there, now I just have to figure out how to get it to be there. So I'm just going to do one more thread through. Right there. On my spiral. Snip that extra wire. Tuck it down in my pliers. Don't want any pokey bits. Doing a final grounding stitch on this side as well. And snip, snoop. And smush. There we go. Okay, so now, let's see. I do have some... Well, those are square, though. But maybe if I just use more of the same size. There's no reason to not experiment. So I'm going to try to fit this ring through the center of the spiral, and it does not want to fit. Crap. So this is a nice opportunity. I want to take this porcupine quill, which has actually turned out to be like one of the handiest tools, and I'm just going to push it through to the spiral. That way that ring will fit through. And then I'm going to hook that on. And I'm going to close it. So I'd really like if for the neckline of this, we could have like a repetitive chainmail and wire wrapping motif. Maybe with some bone beads incorporated. I'm going to open up the spiral on this side too, because I'm pretty sure it's going to need it. Oops. That's what I wanted to avoid. It's distorting my spiral. Oh, get in there. Okay, that's not working, so let me use this metal piece. Try really hard to not get yourself in the under the fingernail. Okay, so that's opened up just a hair. That's all we need. It's just enough to be able to fit the ring through. Then set our Mbius flower on it. Then let's bring that around to closed. You know, but I've just remembered too that it's not going to be hanging from the tip here. Because see, I don't mind doing stuff like this loose Mbius flower at all whenever it's going to be hanging. See how that works? The hanging structure kind of keeps it nice and even. Which I guess, you know, there's no reason saying we couldn't have it hanging from there. So, again, always an evolution. Always, always. So now from here, I think it will actually be a little fun addition to do 2 square rings. These are square stainless steel saw cut. Just for a nice little bit of contrast and texture. Bring those to closed. There's 1. And there's 2. And so now let's see about pulling off an arm span of the 26 gauge, and I'm going to coil this on some 18 gauge the entire length, and I'll meet y'all right back here. Hey y'all, so I'm back. This is how much 1 yard, or actually 1 full arm span of 26 gauge wire was able to get me in coiling, just to kind of give you guys a perspective. And what I'm going to be doing here is I have the same mechanical pencil from earlier, and I'm bringing this around to get those ends lined up, and I'm going to cross them again, same as I did before. I'm going to tighten it down just a little bit, I mean significantly more actually. About right there, on the mechanical pencil nib, and I'm going to open it the way I would a chainmail ring. And now I'm going to thread this on those 2 stainless steel rings. And so it's going to sit like that. I think I can afford to tighten it down just a hair. There we go. And now I'm actually going to kind of do the same thing that I did down here, but up here through the top. So I'm going to loop around from behind. Yeah. Down here I did it to from front to back. Up here I'm going to do it from back to front, because I'm out of control. Okay, so there's that. And from here I'm actually going to bring these down a little bit, and I'm going to trim just a few millimeters past where the coiling stops on each side. And I'm going to spiral upward. Again, doing a nice tight little spiral. Get my nylon gel pliers in on this and just keep spiraling down. Just like that. And so now I think I'm going to make 2 more little Mbius roses. And I'm going to have them be 4-petaled. There we go. Getting the closures as good as I can. And now I'm going to open 2 more of these 18 gauge 1/4 inch, and I'm going to hook through. Dadnammit, I should have thought ahead. I'm going to open up the spiral again, just the eye of it, and I'm doing that by putting it over this needle tool and then pushing down. And that opens it up just enough that I can get that ring through there to hook on my Mbius flower, and then close it. So now I'm going to do that same thing on the other side, just opening it up just a bit. Putting that ring through, hooking that Mbius flower on, and closing. And so now from here, we have some different options. I think I'm going to pull out some, if I have any. If I do. Yes, okay. Here I have, made from the same metal color, 18 gauge 3/16 enameled copper rings. And here I have some little 4mm metal beads. I'm going to go ahead and make a little chain out of these. I'm grabbing all of them that I have. It's looking like it's time to reorder some more. That's okay, that happens. I'm going to use the lid of this actually to keep my beads in so they're not running away on me. Okay. So the idea then is I want to attach this guy over here, maybe? Yeah. Doubled up bronze rings. Doing that on each side. And so now all these little pieces of scrap 20 or 18 gauge that I've had laying around, I'm going to grip one end with my pliers, straighten it out nicely with my nylon jaw. And then I have my flat nose pliers, and I'm just going to do a little fold, 90-degree bend. Use my round nose pliers to bring that around, thread a bead on, let me see if I can't put on one of these little gray ones, because I really want to incorporate them just a little bit more, make it look like they were on purpose, but I don't know if they'll fit. Nope, they won't fit on my 18 gauge wire. Oh well. So in here we're gonna have just a real short little bead link. And so I don't think those will actually fit through 2 chainmail rings. So we may have to just start with 1. We'll see. Ouch. Ouch. Yes, the only thing is this enameled copper is quite slippery. And that's okay, it just takes some getting used to. Try to keep my pliers from slipping off, that way it doesn't like pinch the wire. Yeah, I can only fit 1 ring through. Let's open that one up. Open that one up. So that is how, at least for now, I'm going to continue this design. So I'm going to make a bunch more of these and then I'll be right back. Okay, so this isn't what I planned, but it's what's happening, as per tradition. What we have going on here is I've made a whole bunch of wee bitty Mbius roses out of the same rings that I used to make the bezel for our cabochon. And that's with the 20 gauge 1/8 inch aluminum rings. And then I've got one closed hooked onto an open, and I'm going to close it. And then I'm going to thread one open through both of those. Then I'm going to lay that down there. And I did get a whole bunch of the little links made, but I was messing around using my little link maker tool. There'll be a link down in the video description below, because this is pretty neat, but it did something that I didn't really take into account. And that's, it made the loop too small to fit a Mbius flower into it. So I can only fit the Mbius flowers into the sides that I did with my own pliers, like my round nose pliers and stuff. So what I've started doing is, you can see here, we have the large Mbius, a link, the small Mbius, a link, and then I'm going to do another Mbius. So I'm going to open this one up like that. I'm going to pick up the Mbius and then hook it through all 3 rings. Then I'm going to close it. Make sure it's closed nicely. And then I'm going to dig out another one, and you can really see here how one loop is larger than the other. So I'm going to use the large loop to hook through the Mbius flower. And then I'm going to close it. And then I'm going to open the small loop and hook on another bead. And you can see still there's a pretty obvious difference between one end of the link being larger than the other. So I'm going to hook the 2 small together, and then I'm going to close it. So I had meant originally to do just a repetitious alternation between the 2, like bead link Mbius flower, bead link Mbius flower. But this like kind of 2 chain I think is going to look nice. At least I don't think it'll be distracting to the point that someone would notice, hey, that's not the way it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? And so I'm going to try to expand both sides evenly, or extend both sides evenly. So hooking small link to small link. Oops. And closing it. Hooking on a Mbius flower. And closing it. Grabbing up another link. Opening the large side. and closing it. I think I'm going to do a separate video actually reviewing this little loop making tool, because I do feel like there are strengths and weaknesses to having it in your, or pros and cons rather, to using it. And we'll talk more about that in that other video. Oops. Mbius Flower. Closing that link. So I mean, it's kind of slow going, but I think it's making a really nice chain. That I think will have a really nice effect when it's all said and done. Well, I guess I got them both to the same point, so it doesn't matter which one I keep extending. So I'm just going to keep doing this, and then I'll meet you all right back here whenever I see how far this gets us. Okay, so I'm back. I was able to get quite a bit completed before I ran out of the little bead links I had made. And I think from here I actually just want to complete it with some mechanized chain, just for sitting there on the back of your neck. And I typically, whenever I'm making stuff for in the booth, want to have the necklace be around 16 to 17 inches and then do a couple of inches of extender chain. So I'm going to measure from this center point here. I've got a little ruler on the edge of my desk, which I guess I can, so you can see. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 and 6 is 12. So I need like, put like 2 or 3 inches onto each side. Let's call it 2.5. So I mean, it's just a little bit, but it's just enough that it's going to be sitting there on the back of your neck. I don't want anything like pulling the hairs or anything like that. Just kind of snip that off, and this is just an aluminum chain. And I'm going to open two rings. Though, you know, actually, I don't want to join it with one of these chainmail rings. I mean, I'm going to keep opening them for my extender chain, but so I've got 4 open, and I'm going to close 4 more. And here I have some 18 gauge wire. And I'm actually going to, I'll demonstrate a bit here what we can do with the little loop maker. You just kind of place it in there, and it shapes it around and bends. It doesn't always work perfect every time, so you'll just reposition it like. Of course it worked perfect, like I don't know how many times. And then now that I'm trying to do it on camera, it's like derp, derp, derp. Okay. Just coming around and then putting a bend into it. And if it refuses to bring it around all the way, you can get in there with your own pliers and kind of make it. And this is one of the reasons why I'm like, it's a fun tool, but it is completely non-essential. And then I just get in here on the other end. I'm gonna make myself a generous loop to be able to comfortably get around that Mbius flower. So let's try this again. Placing that, bending it all the way around. There you go. That's how it usually works for me. Making just a nice, consistently sized loop that I forgot to thread the bead on. Come back. There it is. So thread on that bead. My pliers. To bend. Do a snip. Do a loop. Okay. So now I'm going to open up the large loop end and hook on the Mbius flower, making sure to hook through all 3 metal rings. Close. And I'm going to open the small end and I'm going to hook on our mechanized chain. And then I'm going to close it. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And oops. That's what I mean by this copper is so slippery. Open up the little link, hook on our mechanized chain, and then close it. Okay. So there we have that. Now time to put on our extender. It's driving me crazy, you guys. So this necklace has definitely been one of the more difficult ones for me that I've done here lately. And I'm just hooking on these rings. Now, also you could attach a lobster claw clasp or a barrel clasp, but I'm going to make a hook. That way we'll have a little bit of a hook and eye necklace. And the way that I'm going to do that is just functioning off of the spool. I'm going to make a little loop like that. I'm going to smoosh it down. I'm going to wrap it around like this. I'm going to snip it, set that spool off to the side, make another loop, and now I'm going to open that loop that we just made and hook the mechanized chain on. And then I'm going to close it. And that way it'll hook just like that. And the weight of the necklace will keep it on. Hey guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me during this tutorial. I'm really super duper pleased with how the necklace came out. Let's try it on. Just like that. I really like the shape and the drape of it. It's a good weight. It doesn't feel heavy, but I don't feel like it's going to be floating around on me either. So really nice. I was afraid that the neckline would be too silver, but it's just enough that the light will shine off of it. So thank you guys again for hanging out with me. I hope that this tutorial was helpful to you. If you've got any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave them down below. If you enjoy my tutorials and would like to support the creation of more of them, and you've already liked and shared and subscribed and stuff, please check me out on Patreon. There's a link down in the video description below where you can go and pledge as little as $1 a month to support the creation of these daily videos, as well as my artisan education efforts when we're at conventions. The more you pledge, the more likely you are to win. Like $1 gets you one name in the hat, so to speak. $5 gets you 5 names in the hat. And then if you pledge $10 or more, you still just get one entry into the giveaway, but you also get like stuff sent to you every month. So go and check it out. There's descriptions on all the different pledge levels and stuff. Like we've got a $10 one where you can get wire wrapping, or a $10 where you can get chainmail, or a $10 where it's like dealer's choice, or you know, just what have you. So thanks you guys again. I'm gonna give you guys another up close of how this came out. So we had some super simple chainmail and beading for the necklace, the neckline of it. And then we had some fractal wrapping around an acrylic cameo with some coiled wire. Oh, come on, camera, really? There we go. And that's the front, and that's the back. So, thanks, you guys. I'll see you around, and happy crafting. Bye!